Much. Good morning, everybody, honorable members, Minister, HOD, and the entire department. Good morning. We are going to start. I'm going to request for a moment of silent prayer or meditation before we start. Thank you, honorable members. I just want to check, do we correct, Shireen?
We do have a quorum, Chairperson. You may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, I would really like to start by first welcoming the Minister, the HOD, and the entire Economic Growth Development team of the Western Cape, and good morning to you all. Honorable members, if we can start by introducing yourself. And this time we're not really gonna give the Minister and the HOD to allow their department to introduce themselves. I would request that when they are requested to speak, just to introduce themselves, then I think it will just make it easier, and then we can really kind of move with the presentation as quickly as possible. Honorable members, if you can really start by introducing yourself, we'll appreciate. Thank you very much. Over to you guys, colleagues.
Good morning, Chairperson. It's Dave Bryant, member of the committee.
Thank you, Honorable Bryant.
Good morning, Chairperson. Derek Wessels, member of the committee.
Thank you.
Morning, Chair. My
Good
name
morning.
is Nomi Nkondlo. I'm a member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chairperson.
Go ahead, Honorable Constable.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, MEC. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Noel Constable, and I'm a member of this committee.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister Mayor. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Khalil Barankais. I'm also a member of this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I request that we take off the slide off the screen, please? Minister, HOD officials, thank you very much.
Morning, everyone.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, member.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, done with introduction. Is there anyone that I'm missing, Shireen?
All members have introduced themselves, Chairperson.
Thank you. And with me is Shireen Nicker, he's our procedural officer. Honorable members, Minister, HOD officials, just my opening remarks. We had a successful oversight visit to the Cape Town ports, Atlantis and Saldanha SEZ. The honorable members have resolved that effective oversight requires spending less time in boardrooms and more time on the ground, engaging directly with activities on the ground. Following our Port of Cape Town visit, we have received numerous queries regarding the port, including concerns about the dry dock, which has led to one company having to lay off workers. While this isn't good news, Honorable Minister, we really do welcome your efforts in making the port work. It's the only way that we're going to get really our export activity really increasing. Minister, our primary goal on this entity is to support you and your department deliver on G4J strategy and nothing else, Minister. If your department and entities fail, we too, as members of this committee, fail. This morning, News 24 reported about Kailicha's first Airbnb, co-founded by Bundu Matole and Ayanda Kuba. And also, we welcome the work done in the social entrepreneurship space by Luvuyo Khani, our very own from Kailicha Township. He's also involved in the B20 summit that will be taking place in Cape Town. I have attended one of the engagements that he participated in. These are welcoming news, Minister, that we have township stories that inspires this committee. Honorable Constable often put emphasis on the need to extend these efforts to the rural parts of the Western Cape, which I think is critical, Minister, that we also find some activities in the Karoo areas to ensure that we really stimulate the economy that part of the world. We appreciate also, Honorable Minister, your collaborative effort with Minister Creasy, the Port of Cape Town, Transnet, and all stakeholders to ensure that this economic hub serves the people of Cape Town effectively. We are pleased to hear that Minister Creasy has included Cape Town Port in a pilot public-private partnership. We believe this is the step in the right direction, Minister. Minister, we have raised our concerns with the Provincial Minister of Finance regarding your department, the specific one, the economic development and tourism, low staffing levels in this crucial unit responsible for driving economic growth in the Western Cape. For us, it is essential that this department reaches the most remote areas beyond the city of Cape Town. It can only do that with adequate staffing. So, honorable members, we reiterate I just want to reiterate that the presentation given to us has given us a brief breakdown of everything. We have got with us our appropriation bill, which you all have, and we have got the blue book, and we've got the presentation that we can use to really engage the minister on. So what I'm going to do, honorable members, is to allow the minister to do the opening remarks and allow the HOD also to do the opening remarks. If the chairperson of the entities, the 3 entities are present and they want to really do their opening remarks, they are also welcome. But I'm just worried about time, honorable members, that maybe what we should do is that they do the opening remarks, and then we have got the presentation in front of us, and we've got the Western Cape Appropriation Bill, and we've got the Blue Book. Then we can use them as reference in terms of our questioning. Then immediately after their opening remarks, then we go to the deliberation with our questions that will be on page 619 to 693. If members are okay, or members would like to still have the presentation, I really am happy to hear your opinion. And then we can take it from there. So our order of events is obviously we're going to deliberate on vote 12, and then thereafter then we do the consideration and adoption of the draft committee report on vote 12. So just the rules of engagement for this video conferencing, honorable members and officials, please note that this budget vote deliberation is being live streamed on YouTube and also open to public. If there are members of the public who indicated that they will be participating or joining us today, they must also indicate if they have got questions that they need to ask the minister with regards to this particular vote 12. Please also switch on the video to allow us to see you when you speak. However, if you aren't speaking, please switch off your video and mute your microphone. For the chairperson to recognize you, please raise your hands and the chairperson will allow you an opportunity to speak. Just one of the area that I've missed was to introduce myself. My name is Noko Masipa. I'm the chairperson of the portfolio of agriculture, economic development and tourism. Honorable members, I've put to you with regards to how we're going to deliberate this. I just want to hear if we do the opening remarks and go straight into Q&A and really deliberate, or do you want the presentation still to be flighted and presented by the department? Going once, going twice, are we good? We're going to go straight to Honorable Ngondlo.
Chair, don't
Yes.
catch us by surprises early in the morning on an April Fool's Day. I would not know whether this is an April Fool or it is reality. Chair, I get the rationale about not getting the presentation because at times the presentation takes a lot of our time. So I get that. I think in the interest of time, and if the intention is to allow us to at least have more time to engage, assuming that everybody would have read what is in the presentation, and maybe colleagues, when they are responding to us, can refer us to that presentation. I am sure that proposition would be accepted by myself, as long as we still give the minister and HOD some remarks, because sometimes those remarks helps us in terms of contextualizing or understanding context of what is in the book. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngondlo. Do I get you that you say that we must still have the presentation?
No. I'm saying as long as we still keep the minister and the HOD doing their remarks instead of the full presentation, Chair. I support your proposition.
Thank you, Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable Minister, as per members, please, you are welcome to really do your opening remark. If the HOD and the chairpersons of the entities are here and want to make remarks, they also welcome, and then we can proceed with the deliberation. Thank you, Minister, and the HOD, in that order.
Firstly, good morning, Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. I take it you can all hear me?
We can hear you, Minister. Thank you very much. You can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for setting the context for this meeting. Firstly, let me advise you that we are busy with drafting a attendance register. So after this meeting, we will then send the attendance register of those who are present here in this meeting, as well as those who are online to you, so that we have the full records of this committee who are present, since you have not taken any introductions of the members here. But I think that can save time. But I think for the fullness of the record, because we're dealing here with Parliament. So that is the first thing. The second thing, I take note that the Honourable Member Nkondlo has asked that we don't do the full scope of the presentation, but that she did indicate that she would very much like to get a strategic context of this vote. And that strategic context will be done now through the presentation, only up to page 5 or 6, because that is the strategic context, and then we don't deal with the rest of the presentation as per the request of this specific committee. I think that is very important, so that we rather engage more strategically on some of the other issues. But context, in every respect, in every vote, matters. And so I appreciate the input. There will be no introductory further remarks from the entities. The entities are all represented here. They are all ready and willing to answer any questions. That is Freeport Saldanha, Westgaro, as well as Atlanta Special Economic Zone. They are all online, and so we are very happy that they can also answer questions, and they will not make any introductory remarks, since the strategic context that I will now present is applicable to all the entities. We will now proceed on that particular basis. I will now flight the presentation to reflect the strategic context as requested by Honourable Member Nkondlo. I think you are all aware in terms of the strategic context of the national. The context here is we are now in a GNU. Whether we like it or not, we are in the GNU, and the GNU has developed a national medium-term development plan. And part of that plan is that we have also looked at how do we institutionalize some of that. You will recall that the national strategic framework in terms of the government of national unity is about 3 things. Number 1, building inclusive economic growth, reduce poverty, and building a capable state. That's what you find on the slide on the left-hand side. Now, how do you operationalize the national medium-term development plan into the context of the provincial strategic plan? You will see there, what is the vision and the mission of this government? It is to build a government that people can trust, and therefore we have developed what we call an apex priority. That apex priority speaks about helping businesses to grow and create jobs and equipping you to get those jobs. But that's the apex priority, then is also contextualized within the 4 priority areas of this government, namely growth for jobs, the introductory comment that you made. Safety is very important. Education, health, and a caring society. You would have seen in the budget proposals of the minister the other day, there were some specific fiscal allocations to education and health. And as you know, those are the 2 biggest budget items in the government of the Western Cape. And so this is for us very important in terms of that. So to proceed, education and health, the largest part of the budget, and then the transversal priority is innovation, culture, and governance. And that is what you find on the bottom on the right-hand side. If you go to the next slide, in terms of the strategic context, the request for this meeting was the growth for jobs. You are familiar that the growth for jobs, that we have a specific vision, and that is to get breakout economic growth. For the last 15 years, we did not have growth or low growth. And so we want to move out of that growth cycle. So in the context of the G4J, we want to create a 1 trillion rand economy, a 5% GDP growth, as well as creating 600,000 jobs. And based on that, on the right-hand side, the circles that you see are the 7 priority focus areas to actually achieve the growth for job strategy. Or if you like, the various pillars of it, namely driving growth opportunities through investment. Later this year, we will have an investment summit on the 5th and the 6th of November. We target there for around about 1 billion rand investment. But by the year 2035, we are looking at about 450 billion. By the year 2030, we look at 320 billion rand investment. So that is actually to get foreign direct investment. When you have low growth, you need to position yourself for foreign direct investment. To grow the economy, you need to create business confidence, investment confidence, and consumer confidence. And this pillar specifically deal with investment confidence. Well, you have seen yesterday that the Minister of Infrastructure and the Provincial Minister of Finance took a few diplomats on a site visit to look at our infrastructure investment. That is part of creating investment confidence also in the Western Cape. The second slide deals with the issue of exports. We believe in export-led growth. This committee did visit the harbour. I had numerous engagements with the harbour. I had engagements with Minister Barbara Creechy. And so we believe also in increasing our growth, triple our exports. Globally, we have seen that South Africa, for example, last year exported 44% of South Africa total exports also land on the African continent. You know that 66% of all the agricultural products in the Western Cape are exported, and 55% of South Africa's primary agricultural exports come from the Western Cape. So this is very important. But this is not only exports from the harbour, this is also exports through the cargo, and that's why we recently also had with Westgrove fascinating cargo export engagement with Westgrove. You cannot grow the economy unless you have energy security, and that's why that pillar of energy resilience is very important, and the document deal with that also. But also you cannot grow the economy unless you have water security and resilience, and that's why we have a 15-year water plan. We have done hydrological studies. We will have a water day later. And the Premier has now established not only an energy council, but the energy and the water council. This is very important because we have seen what has happened during the time of day zero. So there's quite a lot of developments happening at the level. We have for every single municipality, we're monitoring every dam levels. And talking about energy resilience, we have in the previous term allocated 88.1 million rand to make sure that every single municipality in the Western Cape as a generator for the sewage plants and for the reservoir, and that is part of that energy resilience. But we live in the 21st century knowledge economy, and that's why technology and innovation is becoming more and more important. So we also believe in driving the 21st century knowledge economy through technology and innovation. Infrastructure, very important. You would have seen that yesterday, or rather when the Minister of Finance tabled her budget, she also tabled a second document, which is the provincial and municipal infrastructure. There's about 32 billion rand over the MTEF allocated for infrastructure in this government, building schools and things like that. And part of that is very important because we believe in really allocating enough money. If you look at the infrastructure investment in this budget of this government, because the growth for jobs is an apex priority, Chair, I cannot speak only of growth for jobs in the context of DDEP. I must speak about growth for jobs in the context of the broader government. And in the broader government, we have seen that we have allocated about 57.9 for existing infrastructure assets in the main budget for the government, not for DDEP, 16.8% for new infrastructure assets, 17.3% for infrastructure transfers, and for 2.5 non-infrastructure, and we also have a number of catalytic projects. We believe an infrastructure-led growth over the past number, in fact, the last 10 years, 27.7 billion, 28.8 billion, 30 billion. We are now standing at 32.8 billion rand for the next MTEF for infrastructure. But Chair, this is not only about infrastructure for businesses to grow. They want to see that this government is committed to maintenance. I'm chairing a Growth for Jobs Cabinet Committee, and part of that Cabinet Committee is to make sure that we invest in infrastructure. And so, Chair, we now have not a maintenance plan, we have a mega maintenance plan, the infrastructure portfolio led by the Minister of Infrastructure. Lastly, Chair, is the whole issue of improved access to economic opportunities and employability, because you must make sure that you prepare people for the market, for the new economy, and sometimes this economy is into the future. If you now have the green hydrogen revolution, then you must make sure that you have the right skill set for people to take up the space in terms of technicians and artisans into the green hydrogen industry. So, Chair, the next slide, that's the last slide that I will now talk about. Every minister must have ministerial priorities. I have consulted widely, and my four ministerial priorities linked to the apex priority in the middle is the growth for jobs. So my first priority is agricultural support, because that is vote 11, and you have dealt with that. Vote 12, business support, particularly important if you want to grow the economy. Businesses lead economic growth, both big businesses and small businesses. My third priority is food security and nutrition. And then lastly is market access, more specifically also very relevant to vote 12, because we believe in export-led growth. So, Chair, you asked me what keeps me awake. I want jobs and food on the table. That's the vision, that's the purpose, that's what we take on a daily basis, every single day. That's what drives this government, not only DDEP, because this is a strategy for the government. So I can call any minister and say, what have you done to ignite economic growth through the industries in health, in education, in water affairs, in police oversight? If we grow jobs, we have less crime. And that's the philosophy that we try to do here. And we are determined to make this growth work. And we have seen the latest quarterly labor force survey, we have seen 62,000 new jobs, lowest unemployment, 16.9%. Is that correct? Absolutely not. We want to see much lower unemployment figures, but that's a huge task, and we're working collaboratively with municipalities and with the national government to make this a reality. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Minister. Am I taking it that the HOD is not going to make any opening remarks?
We want to give you more time to ask questions, sir, because I see there's a demand for accountability. We're ready to serve.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, Minister did really his presentation, and thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, there you have it. You've got the presentation in front of you or on your laptops, and you have got obviously your blue book and your Western Cape Appropriation Bill and your strategic plans and APP to engage the Minister and the department as such. Thank you very much, Minister. And I note that the CEO of the entities are also here. And let me also take the opportunity to welcome them. Over to you, members. You can really show your hands if you are ready to ask questions. If there are no questions, then I take it that the Minister has done a good job and we can all leave. Honorable Ngontlo, I see your hand is up. I see three hands now. Honorable Constable's hand is up. Can't see who's the third one. Okay, it's Honorable Mbombo. Okay, in that order, first round of questions. Honorable
Chair.
Mbombo, over to you. Ngondlo, over to you. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairperson. For this round, I'm just going to confine myself, I think, on the introductory remarks of the Minister of what frames this government's response to the challenges of the province. You know, growing the economy through infrastructure-led growth, private sector-led, access to markets and all of that. Now, Minister, I want to pose to you a political economy question about the very reality of, this particular economy of the province, but also an economy of the country. An economy that we know it is not evenly distributed. And therefore, as you are looking for jobs, and food on the table, for most of the citizens, which is a noble intent. Nobody can argue with you. So in light of that, I want to understand what are the measures that this provincial government, including this department, has put in place to actually consider unintended consequences and what is known in economics as market failures, which are there. There's been books written about that markets on their own, unregulated, can have dire impact, for people and for the very jobs we're talking about, in as far as driving inequality. And I'm raising this one in context of the issue of the nature of the jobs. And this is an issue one has been raising about how these jobs that we're talking about, because the essence of what I always hear you and the Premier speaking about is to try and restore dignity of people. And when you're trying to restore dignity of people through a job, it means if I leave my house on a daily and go to work, there is no point of working in a job wherein the very demands of this job do not necessarily enable me, to be able to fend for myself in as far as transport costs are concerned and any other. And wages are one of the specific issues that one is raising about decent wages and conditions of employment. So that's one issue that I want you to explain to me. How are you attending to that matter? Because we have seen it. The displacement of workers, in agricultural sector, as an example, with illegal migrants is one example. So how are you mitigating that with the good intention of ensuring that jobs go to proper citizens of this country, of this province, and actually people who are able to, to contribute into the economy of the province? And in that, Chair, my second question, which is the last one for this round, is to say, when you speak about market access, which once again is a political economy in as far as this very issue that Minister is talking about and the G4J, when it comes to market access, again, in the businesses of this province, and I speak on behalf of those businesses that are in the fringes of the mainstream economy, what are the programs that you have done to date, and actually the scope of your achievement in as far as that is concerned, of ensuring market readiness of those small, medium enterprises that can actually also participate in this opportunity, in this investment that you are doing in the ports, putting our employees of the state to be running, working, daily, trying to ensure, we deal with inefficiencies in the port. The question I'm asking, in the beneficiation of those market opportunities and export opportunities, how much of local companies, are lined up as a beneficiaries also of this percentage-wise as part of the G4J? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, can I ask that maybe when you speak, just to show your face, put camera on. Thank you. The next on the in the order of hands that have been raised is Constable, Honorable Constable. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good morning again, colleagues, MEC, and thank you for the opportunity. So what keeps me awake at night is the equal opportunities. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very clear, Honorable Constable. We just see a green color. We don't
I don't
see
know
you.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay, you can proceed. Thanks.
All right. What keeps me awake at night is the equal opportunities for the people of the rural areas. And you emphasize it. I think me and the MEC, we have found one another, so I will not elaborate on that one again. Making sure that the SEZ that we visit in Atlantis and also in Saldanha, that those opportunities also goes to the Central Karoo and the rural areas of the Western Cape. But Chair and MEC, I have categorized a lot of questions, but I've categorized it in 6 areas. I have about 30 questions, but I will only deal with some of it and maybe at a later stage deal with the others. On the growth for jobs, MEC, 2 questions arose. Which industries are expected to contribute to the most, to the 1 trillion economy, and what incentives are in place to support them? My second question on that, how does this strategy align with municipal economic development plans to ensure rural and township economies are included? On your economic performance and business confidence, let me only ask one question there. How can local businesses be better integrated into global trade and supply chains? On your infrastructure challenges, and I know there's a lot of infrastructure challenges, aging infrastructure is a crucial element with regards to economic development. So here's my question. How will rural and township infrastructure be prioritized to support inclusive economic growth? On workforce development and skills training, 2 questions. What partnerships exist with TVET colleges, universities, and private sector employers to provide relevant training? Number 2, how does the province plan to retain skilled workers, especially in high demand sectors like technology and finance? On digital transformation initiatives, and I see there's a big focus on this one. Only one question from my side. How does the digital transformation plan support the 4th industrial revolution industries? And on the last category, MEC, with regards to budget efficiency, 2 questions. What specific cost-cutting measures have been implemented to streamline the budget? What are the risks associated with budget cuts and how will they be mitigated? Thanks for now, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Ngontlo. Honorable Mbombo.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
Can hear you very clear.
Thank you. Sorry, I won't be able to put on the camera. It is a short notice. I still have got my swell coaster in. Sorry for that. Thank you, Minister, for the presentation. With the ministerial priorities that look in terms of the agriculture, the business support, food security, and also market access, where exactly are you dropping off? Yes, it is generally for the whole province, but for example, with agriculture, if it's about citrus, you'll be able to say it is in these ABCD farms. Or if it's about the business support, you could be able to say, okay, in the port, about giving Cape Town Port were giving like support related to the technology, or you could be able to say we're supporting students for skills development at Vredendal and so forth. So if you could probably indicate, because the setting is crucial, because it makes it easier for us when we conduct the oversight. We don't only conduct a paper-based oversight in terms of the reports, but we could be able to go exactly, just like with the agriculture, exactly where we could be able to follow up in regard to that part of it. The second question, tourism. If you look in terms of the tourism, it's easier to talk about how many people that have landed coming from all over, like UK, like wherever. It's easy, you can put the numbers. Compare again with the agriculture, where you could be able to pinpoint and say, okay, Witzenberg, we have got blueberries. And in the wherever we have got Dutoy farms, we have got XYZ. But in tourism, it only, the report only talks about the numbers landing. Now, why I'm asking this question? As we know that whilst we want to create jobs and build economy, at the end, it's about not only the dignity, but the lives and the livelihoods. If you are going to have to improve as such, but it doesn't impact on the socio-economic specific status of the people, then what is the point of doing that? So therefore, with the tourism, at what extent, specifically in regard to, say, with a 5,000 extra from Chinese or whatever, we have seen the impact in the ABC, because we want the setting. That's why we want the setting. If you could be able to analyze not only general in terms of course, we know that the more there's a tourism, the more you'll have economy be boosted. But the issue here, I'm representing the Auntie Sarah, where I could be able to go back to her and state in terms of that. Talking about the impact on the socio-economic status, whilst in Western Cape, we do have a better economy, the GDP and all of those. Like when you pick up one end of the stick, automatically you'll pick up the other end. So whilst we talk about the positive aspects, bringing about the economy, we cannot leave behind some of the societal issues where we have got the high drug crime, drug-related crime. We haven't improved in the murders compared to in the previous years. We still have got people who are living below the poverty line. Of course, there is a positive correlation between those in the poverty line, in the improvement, and when there are jobs, which you have seen according to the district. It has been granulated clearly. But for me, it's about, when you talk about the numbers of the employment, when you talk about the numbers of the tourists, just like when you talk about the infrastructure, you'll be saying that it's building ABC, will be facility XYZ, or it's either infrastructure in the Wineland district. Similar, when you talk about in terms of the education, you could be able to pinpoint in these schools, Quintal 1 or whatever, these are the schools, as I made an example with the agriculture. So with a strategic framework in terms of your priorities, plus also what the DDA does, at what extent have you correlated in terms of where there are more societal, economic issues or social determinants, such as the end of the stick is the drug-related crime rate. And as we know, with the issues related to the drug crimes, similar with the issues related to, let's say, the hijacking, it's the matters of the crime related to the inequalities within that specific community. When the others rob their haves because they see themselves that they are the victims of being have-nots. So at what extent, when you say, okay, there is a map, we have seen that the highest 10 precincts in terms of the high crime rate, specifically to the Western Cape. Most problem is about the drug. We are now going to know that when we improve economy, when we improve employment, when we support business in that particular area, you could be able, as a proxy, to improve some of these societal issues. And then lastly, part of the improvement of the economy, part of the growth for jobs, is related to the energy transition. When I look in terms of the energy transition implementation, which is probably, I might ask more also from the infrastructure, where you are talking about the, as part of the JET IEP design, is also part of the Atlantic Special Economic Zone and so forth and so forth. When I look in terms of the JET at a international level, which is part of the JET Commission, and at the which is the presidency is part of, in regard to the social aspect of the entrepreneurship, because remember the priority apex priority, it's about here in the province, is about the issue of supporting the business and improving, creating jobs. So on the business side, it has got some of the criteria how you could be able to improve the social entrepreneurs, for them to be there off the grid, like we have the individual anti-SARAs who could be able to be part of the people who could be supported. You could have a group of the, whether it's a stockfell of the anti-SARAs, where they could be also to be participating, maybe using their own land, helping with those who could be able to provide energy so that them to be off the grid. Whilst I see an example with a Hesakwa, but I don't see some of the elements that are there in the national JET in terms of the implementation around that. That is my first round, Chair. Sorry again for not having a face. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. So, Minister, I think there's quite a lot of questions that you need to go through. Honourable Bryant, I will give you the second round opportunity to maybe put your question. Honourable Minister and HOD, over to you to answer those questions that have been posed by members.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Thank you to members for the various questions. I have now looked at where these questions are strategically located in this vote. Many of these questions relate to investment, strategic catalytic infrastructure, technology and innovation. Those are in the context of our strategic priority 1 of this department in terms of our 5-year strategic plan, which is driving growth opportunities, and the Deputy Director Generals who are responsible for that, they will answer those specific questions. The second strategic priority of this department for the next 5 years deals with stimulating market access, and those officials who drive that specific priority in terms of their performance agreements will respond to that, and that specifically deals with the issues of exports and tourism, and they will respond to those questions. The third priority of this department deals with the enabling environment, and some of those questions were located in that priority, and that deals with the questions that deals with skills development. There were issues about entrepreneurship. There was issues dealing with technology and innovation. Specifically, Honourable Member Constable asked those type of questions, the colleges, the TVET colleges, and such questions, and also dealing with the incentives. And then the whole issue of resource resilience, that will the CFO will be, and the HR people will respond to those particular questions, because those are what we call transversal enablers. So those will be dealing with that. Honourable Member Mbombo, I think last parts of it were some observations, 1 or 2 questions from that, but I would like to respond to some of it. Your questions largely deals with, you use the examples of agriculture and so on. In agriculture,
is it me?
Apologies, Minister. Honourable Mbombo. Thank you. Minister, you can proceed.
Thank you.
Apologies for that.
Thank you, Honourable Member Bombo specifically, the question there that I could pick up is, where's the functional and spatial footprint of this department? That was actually the question. Every year we do a study called the growth potential of towns and regions, linking that to the MERO, the Municipal Economic Review and Outlook, preceded by the PERO, the Provincial Economic Review and Outlook, and both in the MERO, PERO, and in the growth potential of towns and regions, and in the document called the Provincial and Municipal Infrastructure, there is a geographical footprint of that, and certainly we have about 155 G4J projects. Those projects take place different levels, both at the functional level and at a geographical level, and those project managers can respond to those specific questions. I want to thank Honourable Member Nkondlo, who always remind us that we must link the job of this Department of Job Creation to dignity and well-being, and also the colleagues will then respond directly to her in terms of the issues of market failures, because one of the ways that we try to deal with market failures, it is both this priority of the GNU, but also this government, is to create inclusive economic growth. And she asked the question, how do we reduce also poverty in this particular site? Honourable Member Nkondlo also asked about black producers and export readiness. So there were some questions in that regard. I'm going to ask the colleagues from Westgrove to respond to the Mate in the Cape and their responses in that particular regard. But for now, there was also a question about the risk. How are we going to deal with the risk in the budget? CFO will respond to that. Cost-cutting mechanisms, both the CFO and the HODs can respond to that, as well as to the digital transformation, the program managers. I now hand over to my very able, competent HOD, Anne Johnston.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think you made it much easier for me. So as Minister, I think Shepton already knew who was going to respond. I'm going to ask that with respect, if we can go, because I think the questions are really around the unintended consequences of free markets and how do we manage or mitigate the impact, and then also how do we ensure that there is market access in terms of the beneficiaries of the port. Do not answer that question. We just answered the first one, and how we accommodated that in our strategy and in our plans. Zaha? I just need
to just be visible.
Open your mind.
Speak.
We can't hear you. Sorry. HOD, she's muted.
Go for it.
To avoid an
Mute yourself.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Sahan Chipper, and I'm Director of Research, Economic Policy and Planning within the DDAT department. And the first question from the first honourable member related to, in my understanding, market failures, that unintended market failures that arise within the province, particularly those that relate to or that perpetuate inequality, and those that relate to the job market. So that's what I will have a stab at. So most of these responses, most of these approaches in terms of what the province is doing about them can be found within PFA 7 of the G4J strategies, and then some within, I think it's PFA 5, but I'll try and just, due to time, maybe just quickly go through about 5 of them. The first one relates to a mismatch between labour supply and demand, or at least the correct skills being available, which in itself can perpetuate inequality. So the strategy proposes that we look at certain skills, or to try and through schools programs encourage people within schools, and maybe through subjects such as life orientation and other career guidance-based subjects, just encourage private sector to get more involved so that they can provide more guidance in terms of what exact skills and what exact sectors are requiring more skills within the job market, so that when youth leave, I'm just going to so that when you leave school, they do not end up pursuing careers where there's no demand for their uptake. The second one relates to the lack of information within the job market by job seekers. Sometimes the correct jobs are available and sometimes the skills are available, but there just is no information. Again, that can be found within PFA 7, which deals with things like career awareness campaigns. Again, it links almost to the first one, which deals with improved career guidance and real-time opportunities in dashboards that are regularly updated with the involvement of private sector, and that can be fed back into schools. The third one, Chair, relates to maybe entry barriers. So sometimes the youth are available, they have access to the right information, but it's hard for them to get that first working position. And that, with regards to that, we're looking at youth work experience placements. Some of this can be found at the national level already, and sometimes within the provincial level, but the strategy looks at scaling them up together with private sector partnerships again within the province. The second last one, and I'm almost done, relates to low demand for labor in certain areas, maybe townships or some rural areas. And that is why there is a spatial approach to the infrastructure projects which come out of PFA 5, which deals with infrastructure. And those will look at certain things such as township economy, revitalization programs, and so forth, just to ensure that there are more cranes in the skyline in areas where there has been traditionally less economic activity. And then the last one then deals with public goods not being available in certain areas, things like your Wi-Fi and your transport. I know there have been programs and projects that have gone ahead with regards to transport and so forth. But just to emphasize again, certain infrastructure projects like access to public Wi-Fi has, my colleagues can elaborate further, but they have already kicked off just to ensure that facilitation to access to jobs is scaled up within the economy. Those are the top 5. There are many more, but due to time, that's all I'll use that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. HOD, we're in your hands now in terms of directing the questions, the answers to the questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. And then just with regards to both, there were quite a few questions really around market access on Cape Town, and then also how our SMEs and local businesses are able to access that. I almost want 3 people to actually respond to that. So one would be Ilse, particularly as far as the is concerned and the market access issues. The second is going to be Westkro, and I know that CEO of Westkro knows online. So if she or one of her colleagues that are here, just to maybe talk about how Westkro actually supports SMEs to have access to the international markets. And then I'm going to then ask John and Joshua, who are in program 2, and that provide quite a bit of entrepreneurship support. It's what they have done to ensure that SMEs have market access. And remember, market access is not just international. It also talks about local and domestic market access. It's about procurement from the state and a number of things. So if both John and or Joshua can come in towards the end. But if I could hand over to Ilse just to respond to all of the export, the market access and port-related questions, please.
Thank you, HOD. So just in terms of, and thank you very much for the various questions. So with regards to market access, the premise is really linked on three things. The one is to remove the barriers. So the example used with regards to port is exactly that. So in relation to exports, if the port doesn't work, then we struggle in terms of getting our goods to our different destinations. So the first lever that we have to action, which we have been working on with regards to market access, is in terms of removing barriers. The ports and the border logistics element, which includes rail, etc., is one of them. So the work there is really geared in terms of not just the efficiency, but making sure that our logistics network works efficiently, getting private sector to invest, working on in terms of just removing barriers with regards to the port inefficiency program, which you're well aware of in terms of the work that we're doing there. The second aspect that I'd like to mention in terms of removing barriers is, for example, including tourism and visas. So that's a similar approach we take in terms of market access, and that constrains our ability with regards to getting foreign investments in terms of the spend in market with regards to tourism. So both of them, and we've got a various range with regards to market access, we look at in terms of big barriers, in terms of constraints for those different industries. The second element in terms of market access is in terms of how do we support sector growth, industry growth in terms of scale. And there is a range of interventions that we do there in terms of whether it's through capacity building, ecosystems, investment into sectors, looking at their productivity, etc. So that helps us in terms of, from a market access, in terms of are we competitive, etc., in terms of delivering our goods and services into those different economies. The third element is where we do interventions that are at first level. So this is, for example, I'm going to give you one real project, is in terms of our export competitive enhancement program. So this supports firms or companies in terms of I want to export, but it's costly. I need a specific certification. I need to trade in terms of those market conditions, or it's we need specialized packaging. So levers, support interventions that are geared towards firm level is really of how do we support exporters in terms of accessing markets and removing some of the costs. So for me, market access has to look at all levels of that. And similarly, other examples with regards to a range of other interventions, including tourism, where we support firms to their productivity. And that's when, of course, our export growth fund, we were supporting to put new products, etc. So those are the three levels that I wanted to just highlight with regards to market access and how do we approach this from a G4J and a departmental level.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, if I could ask Ranal if she wants to maybe add to what Ilse just said.
You're on mute, Ranal.
Good morning, Chairperson and all the committee members, Minister HOD, and everybody else on the call. I'm going to be switching my camera off. I just wanted to greet you all, and then I will be answering some of the questions. If I could start with the question around Western Cape exporters. We have three interventions that we work on. The first is that we have an export team across a number of sector desks, and these really focus on the countries that we are working with. So that includes the Americas and Europe in one, and UK in one on one desk. We've got a desk that looks after China, ASEAN, and India. And we have a couple of other desks as well. But the idea there is that we are trying to diversify not only our products into market, but also the markets that we're wanting to send exports to. The second big element is that we have maybe just on that, we have over the last financial year taken 134 Western Cape exporters into market to showcase their goods and services at 18 trade shows. And we have achieved a 1.4 billion in export declarations over a 5-year period. In addition, Westra has a second initiative, which is called the Export Advancement Program. With the Export Advancement Program, we take exporters that are less established into market. We put them on a training program and we take them into market with us. Over the last financial year, we worked with about 105 less established Western Cape businesses, and 39 exporters joined us on mission into Denmark, Hong Kong, and also to Switzerland. 12 of these companies were 100% black owned, and they were drawn across the Cape Metro, Cape Winelands, Garden Route, and the Overberg. And a number of these companies, of these less established companies, have also achieved declarations over the last financial year. So that is on the exporters, and I thought that it might also be interesting. There was a question related to education and the work that is happening in the education space, and I thought that it might be useful to also share with the members that we have, together with the Western Cape Department of Education, launched the EduInvest program. And in the last financial year, we have had, and really the focus there is on attracting private sector funding into the school build program. And we've achieved 4 successes with new Spark School being built in Easter River, a new school being built in Paarl, a school at Crystal House, and of course Apex in Stellenbosch. So there's been quite a lot of progress in terms of school builds, which we also very excited to add. With respect to the question on tourism, there's quite a lot of work going on across Wesgro in order to increase the participation of communities that are less involved in the economy. We have a kitty that we have set aside to fund events in townships and in areas outside of the Cape Metro. And in the last financial year, we kicked that off with some success, but there's quite a lot of work that has to happen to support, for example, the Karoo, the West Coast, with developing events that can take place in those regions. So there has been quite a lot of work in that regard, and I'm happy to share in more detail, but I think I shall stop there and hand back to the HOD.
Thank you again through you, Chair. I'm just going to ask if Goodwill Dingaan can actually just add a little bit about some of the export prep work we are doing in the rural areas or outside of the metro. Dingaan, just briefly, before I hand over to Chair.
Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Minister. Thank you, Chair. As part of supporting the various industries and companies to expand their market access and also going just beyond the metro, looking at various districts, we've initiated a program the last 2 financial years. This year is going to be the 3rd financial year where we doing an outreach, export outreach, outreaches to various districts. And we have had a lot of successes because we've seen companies attending those outreach programs, to be capacitated in terms of export knowledge, export information. Those sessions were also supported by various district municipalities, as well as municipalities in the district. As part of that program, we have joined hands with various government departments, such as DTIC. DTIC was actually present in all the district outreach missions, as well as various national government agencies such as SIGA, SIPA, and as well as the IDC. What we also do in those district outreaches, we also promote some of the incentive schemes that are available to support the exporters. Wesgro has also been part of some of the district outreaches. I think the biggest one, or the well-attended one, of course, is the one that was hosted in the metro. We'll continue with the district outreach, but at the same time, I also want to share that from this financial year, we are going to be rolling out an online export course, which was developed in collaboration with the School of Export. That will allow us to have more reach. Wesco has been running the Export Advancement Program, but we know that it is very limited in terms of the people participating in it. But the export online course is going to be rolled out throughout the province, so it's going to have a much bigger scale and reach. Thank you very much.
And then I'm going to ask if Joshua could maybe just respond to the township elements in terms of infrastructure, and then how we are able to better support our more rural areas and the work that we've done in the work. I think particularly Joshua, we're planning to do.
Yeah. So Chair, just thank you so much for the question. I think, look, for us fundamentally, it's about, and I'm going to look at how do we scale our intervention. So at a basic level, we host various supplier open day sessions throughout the Western Cape, and we've added in areas like Saldanha, Bergrivier, Mossel Bay, and Buttle. And those sessions, Chair, is about where the department brings together CIPC, SARS, the Department of Labour and Employment, and about basically teaching and capacitating businesses about how do you access market opportunities, and especially in the sense of how do you access government procurement. So it's about basically understanding, letting them understand what it is if you want to do business with government, what is it you have to do. The fact that you've got to register, not just on the central supply database, but also in the Western Cape Supply Evidence Bank. Then, Chair, also we are involved in sessions, what we call contractor development workshops, where we partner with the Department of Infrastructure and also other Western Cape government departments. And we've held a couple of sessions in areas like Khayelitsha, Vredendal, Ladysmith, Beaufort West, and Oudtshoorn, where we basically go and talk and engage with contractors in those particular areas to then basically capacitate them to enable to contract with government. So it's about letting them understand what the procurement process is, what are the compliance requirements, because I think those are some of the fundamental challenges and impediments for suppliers to engage with government in that sense. We've also partnered with the Department of Infrastructure as well on what we call the Supplier or Development Program, where we're looking at where we supported contractors to implement the new engineering and construction contract program. So the NEC 4 compliance standards, if we don't adhere to those standards, you are unable in that sense, those contractors and engineers to contract with government in that sense as well too. So we've convened a series of workshops throughout the province in different districts to capacitate and assist some of those contractors to become compliant in terms of being able to engage with government. But then there are also other challenges, Chair, that we've looked at in terms of different programs that the department is involved with. We'll be looking at access to finance, which is a particular challenge in terms of businesses to access market opportunities. So through our initiatives, through the SME Accelerator Support Program, it's about capacitating businesses about understanding the funding landscape, what are the funding mandates, what are the funding criteria. So in that sense, we're able to businesses to access funding, to enable them to access market opportunities. Through other initiatives, it's about looking at how do we support business through a range of business development support programs to ensure the sustainability of these businesses, but also looking at how do we reduce the operational efficiency. So businesses then, through the program like the Booster Fund, would require support, Chair, and given support to access to equipment, but also business development support. And in that sense, and access market opportunities. So when we've engaged with a lot of these businesses, without the kind of equipment that supported we've given, they're unable to access certain market opportunities. So that kind of business development support really enables these businesses to access market opportunities that historically would not be available to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm going to now ask if firstly Nizam can talk particularly around partnerships with TVET colleges, and there was a touch on some of the skill base, so you may want to add to what Zakhan had mentioned. And thereafter, through you, Chair, I'm going to ask if Tim Paul, who's online, can respond to the fourth industrial revolution and a number of the other tech and innovation questions that were asked. But Nizam, over.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that, companies, the only companies don't willy-nilly let go of workers. The only time they let go of workers if there's a reduction in demand, the labor becomes unsuitable because of new technology. There might be automation in place, or there's an outsource or offshore capability. But if a company let go of work, which is a key factor of production, and demand comes back, it costs about 30% of the cost of employee to employ a labor again. So companies don't willy-nilly. It's normally some structural issues that would let companies let go of labor. So what we do with respect to addressing, obviously from a demand perspective, I think that question has been responded to previously, how we intend to improve demand. We do, however, know with respect to closing the gap between labor and supply, labor demand and supply, the Business Confidence Index, which is a survey that's conducted across the economy every quarter, shows that just under 50% of companies struggle to find suitable labor for the occupations that they have. And I'm sure Tim is going to talk about that later with respect to some of the AI. But with respect to addressing that skills gap and potentially addressing the retention issue, we are working with TVET colleges, universities, in developing academic instruments that better suits the current and future demand of that labor. And more importantly, we're also developing new instruments that allows the existing labor not to do some of these upskilling in an online type of environment. With respect to addressing some of the concerns with AI, we are working with TVET colleges, basic education, and universities to incorporate artificial intelligence in the current occupations that have been delivered in these institutions. And while we are concerned around the impact that AI is going to have, particularly on non-blue collared workers, if we don't deal with the productivity of labor in the current occupations, we may lose those jobs to offshore locations. And I think that lastly, there was a question around our collaboration and partnership with the TVET colleges. We're currently working with the TVET colleges and the universities around institutional support. We find funding for them from external funders, both in South Africa and outside South Africa. And this is to support lecture capacity building, scale due occupational training, to develop more online programs at TVET and universities, where these instruments are better suited for the realities that we have currently in South Africa and the changes that we see in the economy right now. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. And then I think that was towards the end, Chair. But Tim, can you please go ahead?
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Chair and Minister. It's Tim Powell. I'm the Chief Director of the Digital Economy Team and the Technical Lead for the Technology and Innovation Priority Focus Area. I'm just going to respond to the question raised by Honourable Constable about the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the relationship with the work that we're doing. The term 4IR was actually coined in 2016 by the World Economic Forum. So there are many of the concepts in that have been around with us for quite some time. Artificial intelligence, cloud technology, Internet of Things, 3D printing, virtual robotics, and even autonomous vehicles. So many of these technologies have actually become quite familiar to us in our daily life, particularly after the digital boost that was received through COVID-19, recognizing we went into lockdown 5 years ago. And at that stage, businesses really needed to find themselves to adapt to this digital world around them and this massive acceleration there. In terms of what we're doing, we are supporting various initiatives across the life stages of citizens and also of businesses. We started the new financial year today, and we have an exciting portfolio of projects lined up. Starting at school level, we are focusing on technology career awareness and building a strong digital skills foundation. So getting the learners equipped to understand what the world of work can offer them in the technology and innovation area. For those post-school, we are targeting specialist tech skills for growth sectors, and we're offering programs to help graduates map and convert their technology skills to find employment. We do find that there are too many graduates sitting out there that don't have quite what it takes to match what the industry is requiring. And we do have some mechanisms for that. For businesses, be they startup businesses or existing businesses, we are concentrating on strengthening the ecosystems and the value chains. We are going to choose 7 to focus on in this coming year. We have a body of research which we're in the process of finalizing, and that is going to help us choose which those 7 winners or the 7 priority areas are. We also help businesses adopt technology for better productivity, by making technology and innovation more understandable. There's a myth-busting element that we need to do around technology so that we can educate businesses of all sizes on the benefits and the challenges of these technologies. I mentioned that we're going to be supporting ecosystems, so there are 7 in this coming financial year, and overall this helps create environments where advanced technologies can thrive and effectively be integrated. So Chair, I hope you recognise that the 4IR is many things that are familiar to us today. They are being handled at different levels through the life cycle of citizens and businesses. Thank you very much.
I now ask if Jacques, and then complemented by Faye, perhaps if she wants to add, but if Jacques could respond to the issues of the tourism and how we can make sure that it feels embedded in the rural areas and also in the townships. And then if you also could mention the likes of like Auntie Sarah getting involved in some of the opportunities out in the outside of the metro, if you want. Mr. Shah.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister, Chair, members, and HOD. I think Ilse as well as Ronel spoke about some of the work being done to ensure that we grow tourism, but also that growth is inclusive. And I think members will see that reflected in the budgets as well. There's definitely a stronger emphasis on ensuring that we invest in community-based operations and also in rural destinations. So in terms of the incoming financial year, we are actually expanding our toolkit of support that will be made available to startup businesses as well as community-based operators. At present, support is available through the Tourism Growth Fund, but we've also realized that there is also a need to build capacity, particularly around skills. So we will be investing more in terms of taking entrepreneurs through targeted skills development programs, particularly around experience development, how to create financially viable experiences. And then obviously it is the priority of Minister as well to support rural destinations and rural tourism. So there are a few exciting projects that we are rolling out specifically around that. I think then just lastly to mention also career pathing. Thousands of students take tourism as a subject at school. So we are looking at ways in which we can further support these learners in terms of understanding what the career and study opportunities are in tourism, and just creating more excitement about opportunities available. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning. Perhaps just one additional comment, slightly with a step back from the sector focus that Jacques has just mentioned. The department plays a very active role in the support to municipalities, and that means utilizing a lot of the IGR mechanisms and processes like the IDP assessments, JDMA processes, SIME time. There are quite a number of coordinated mechanisms that we reach out to municipalities in order to identify their priorities and then what needs to feed into the departmental programs and projects so that we get two particular things. One, traction on our GQJ lands in the localities, but that the department also then becomes responsive to the municipal issues that get raised. And that happens across sectors, across the enterprise one day, it could be tourism, but essentially it's about doing the best spatial spread geographically across the province. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I think with the exception of the risks, you've answered all the questions, the risks with regards to budget cuts, and then I'm going to ask the CFO to respond to that. Ms. Abrams.
Thank you, HB. So perhaps I can respond to the questions relating to the cost containment. So maybe if I can answer it, and I think that it also addresses some of the risks related to the budget cuts. So I think for DDAC specifically, the risks as well as the efficiencies that we've implemented in terms of the budget is probably, I would say, probably across 3 areas. So I think starting with the first area, the G4J strategy, by its very nature, the approach is one where delivery happens across departments. So what it actually forces the department to do is to look at what is the possible duplication that is sitting within other departments and actually ensuring that when we deliver without repeating or duplicating what other departments are doing. And that, I think, by its very nature in terms of the project that the G4J team follows, but also how the budgets in terms of how the PTM, as well as how Provincial Treasury has allocated budgets, looked at all the possible duplications across those areas. And that obviously also helps in terms of mitigating some of the risk around budget cuts. Then the second important area is the actual cost containment measures that was implemented by the department and also cost containment measures that's implemented across the province. So this province obviously it's very important for us to implement cost containment, specifically because budgets are being cut year on year. So within DDAC specifically, what we looked at in terms of budget cuts was cuts in terms of appointment of consultants. So really looking at whether it's necessary to appoint a consultant or do we actually have that staff in the department that can deliver on that area. Cuts in terms of just having reductions on non-essential expenditure, travel, some of the other areas in terms of purchases, etc. But then also for us, very importantly, is the digitization process that we've undergone. So our department is fully digital, and that has really translated in significant cost savings across quite a few areas. But also, in addition to the digitization, is our drive in terms of automation, which also helps us in terms of becoming a lot more efficient, but also resulting in cost savings across the department. And I think the last area which we always tend to forget, but I think it's an area that we've been really remarkable at, is the actual leveraging of funds. So for this department, specifically within our skills development area, we managed to significantly leverage money across all the programs within that area. So our programs within skills development, for every cent that we spent, we were able to actually leverage money from either a partner such as CETA, GTAX to your national treasury, or even private sector as well. And that's almost across a lot of our other programs also. So we've got ESEP, we've got our Tourism Growth Development Fund, similar approach in terms of partnership funding. And I think that is one of the areas which we've now, as part of our strategy, that we're also driving, and I think we've actually dedicated a person to look at how do we ensure that for every program or project we do, that we leverage funding across those areas. And that also obviously mitigates a lot of the risk that we are experiencing due to budget cuts. I think we recognize that the risk is not going to go away. There's going to be significant budget cuts coming across the MTF, and we would need to look at the approach in terms of leveraging even more funding for DDAC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, HOD. Honorable members, we're going to have follow-up, and another round of question. Honorable Bryant, your hand was up. You will go first. Are there other members that wants to have a follow-up questions? I see Honorable Ngontlo, Honorable Constable. Honorable Bryant, you go first. I see your hand is down.
Yeah, Chair, I'm actually covered, so I'm happy for Honourable Nkondlo to continue.
Thank you. Honorable Ngontlo and Honorable Constable in that order. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the responses, Chair. Because this is more of a budget discussion, and I'm sure we will find each other with the department. I think on the discussions in committees around the varied programs they are mentioning. Whilst I must indicate that my question around how, especially on the jobs front, the notion of wage, quite decent wages is being mitigated. I could not get that properly in terms of the responses from the colleagues. I just want to also understand, Chair, in page 638 to 639 of the Blue Book, I'm interested for the department to explain under Pathway 1 on Strategic 3.3 priority as a matter that has been ventilated almost every other time we meet with this department around the issue of the township economy. And I see the department talks about changes in national policy that has necessitated an implementation plans, as it relates to township, rural and informal strategy, which will outline the department's approach. What exactly, these are words, what exactly is the department saying here? What are we going to be seeing in the township, rural and informal strategy? And what's the budget for this? Because I see in 639, it talks about township action plans and it mentions Mossel Bay as where there is going to be an intervention. Maybe they must just take us through at what point is this department really going to take this matter serious, and we get to hear clearly what is the focus that's going to be undertaken by this department around township, rural and informal strategy, in detail, and what is exactly the budget along that, so that we can be able to follow this up. And this includes a Chair, one of the questions about, township economy safety funding. Because I think as this department and also in the provincial government, one of the things we have seen is, the very urgent response by this government when some sectors of the economy are actually under threat or risk of safety. We saw it with the tourism fund. Actually, we are, even in this budget, there is a 2 million budget towards tourism safety to the city of Cape Town. We saw it with the agriculture, with the fund that was created when there was the threats, to the farmers. So I'm asking, when are we doing the very same thing with the litany of evidence that has been demonstrated and it's in the public domain of informal traders, that gets to be killed, by, extortion gangs and criminal syndicates in the townships on a very frequent scale. And we have been silent around that leakage in the township economy, because most of these township entrepreneurs, Chair, we laud and speak about, as you were doing your own opening, they have to run and hide under bullets. Even I think the young men you were speaking about can tell you of how many of some of his internet cafes that actually had to close down because of extortion. So we need to be able to balance this conversation. And I'm asking, when are we starting and building a case for funding for township economic safety? That's the question I want to raise. On page 634, Chair, I just want to understand on the consumer protection. The office, has done the work of business information sessions and all of that. During the period when we saw, the issue of following up on illegal and some of the poisonous products sold in some of the spaza shops, I want to understand what work was done by our own consumer Office of the Consumer Protection, around these issues in the communities. I am in Ceres, as an example, in as a parliamentary constituency office, and I'm aware of a situation that happened there of a child that got sick, and I recall the councillor there had to call, the municipality to try and go and do an investigation in one of the foreign-owned spaza shops. So I'm asking, what has been this office OCP done around this particular work in this province? So I think for now, Chair, I will just end there in terms of my follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Nkondlo. Honourable Constable.
Yeah, thank you very much. Chair, this one is directly to the MEC. Yesterday, we had a discussion in local government vote, and MEC Bradell told us that the revenue within municipalities is a big problem, and local government as a vote does not have funding to support or to really support municipalities. My question and comment to MEC Bradell was, is it not time for his department, this department, economic development and finance, to get together to see how they can streamline and support local municipalities within the economic development space? The commitment then from MEC Bradell was that for sure you will do that. Can we get that commitment from MEC Mayor also? Because we can say municipalities are struggling, but what are we really doing, and what is the processes, the tangible things that we can put on the ground? What is the support? I was there in Atlantis, and I will go back to that all the time, and I can see the efforts that provincial government is putting in place to support those projects and programs within Atlantis and Saldanha Bay. Is there appetite for us, this provincial government, to also go out to rural municipalities and go and support them with economic development so that we can then also grow the jobs within that space? So my plea here is that commitment also from this MEC to support rural municipalities? Thank you, Chair.
Honourable members, thank you very much. I hope this is the last round of questions. I hand over to you, Minister, and the HOD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. There are two specific matters that was brought under the attention of this committee, by this committee to this department, namely the issue of the informal township economy by Honourable Member Nkondlo from a strategic perspective, but he said not only strategies, he said not only words, but action, projects, and locality. So the department will have to respond to that. I share her concern, I share her views, because we know that we have a very dynamic, active, progressive township economy. Anybody that goes into any township will see the vibrancy of the informal economy. You can do your hair, you can do your shoes, you can wash your car like I recently did there in Wallasdene. So all of these things shows you that the main road in any township is actually the Voortrekker Road of the township, where the businesses are flourishing, and somebody will respond to that. And that economy is important because in the last 15 years, we had low growth or zero growth in South Africa. So that economy is a vibrant economy. It's an economy close to people. And I think we mustn't underestimate the role of that economy. So I'm going to ask the department to respond to that. The second issue that Honourable Member Nkontlo raised, I made a note here. 638 and 639. And that was also the OCP. Somebody will respond to that, the Office of the Consumer Protector. And the third issue that she raised is about the safety of the informal traders. I think that's a serious issue. I have just looked at what the minister has put in the main budget for safety in terms of creating safety, improving the lead officers, violent protection, including the provincial traffic law enforcement, the issue of strengthening community-based safety. If you go in some places, you see Chrysalis safety ambassadors, victim empowerment support, but he specifically referred to the safety of the informal traders, because I think we are now seeing that they are more and more under attack, so the department will respond to that. Honourable Member Constable asked me from a experience yesterday in another vote in terms of the Department of Local Government in relation to Minister Bredel. I think one of the staff members here responsible for local economic development did use acronyms. I'm not going to use acronyms. She said time stands for technical, integrated municipal engagements. That is with the municipality at the technical level to find out how can the whole of government, what we call BOGA, whole of government and whole of society, use the data intelligence through the technical engagements at the official level, influence the sign, and I'm not going to use a jargon. SIME stands for strategic, integrated municipal engagement. In other words, the data from the ground up into the budget process, and so that that budget, when we table a budget, it also reflects the engagements that we had with municipalities into the various programs. So that is how we are doing that. In addition, later this year, I will call a municipal, economic, and tourism summit, because I think municipalities have a lot of economic and tourism assets, which they don't use to their full potential. And now they come to the Western Cape government and ask for money. This government is no bank. If it is a bank, it is bankrupt, but it's not a bank. There's no money. And many of these municipalities think we are a bank. In fact, when I was the MEC, one mayor came to see me for money. I said, but look here, you're not even spending money on your own infrastructure investment. So for us, we have no money, but we can assist municipalities to unlock economic potential and get some more money into from a revenue perspective, because there's a thing called DRM, domestic resource mobilization, and we are more interested in that. But also, the HOD and I had a discussion, and I want to thank the team for putting that Municipal Economic and Tourism Summit proposals together, because they said, we're not going to develop plans. We want to see programs of action in municipalities to promote economic development and tourism. And also in this blue book that all of you have received, because I normally look at it. And in this book, there is a table that says provincial transfers to municipalities. And you are perhaps correct. You will see that it is in a declining trend in terms of the fiscal envelopes of municipalities. And therefore, we will try everything in our power to use economic diplomacy, use the G4J, engage with both the Treasury, the Department of the Premier, this department, Wesgro, our entities, as well as the Department of Local Government, but don't forget the Department of Environmental Affairs, because they host Cape Nature, and Cape Nature is within a municipal space. So to answer your question, am I happy and willing? You want a commitment that we work together with local government? I think it's beyond local government. It is local government, all our entities, it is Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, and through our technical integrated engagements, as well as our strategic integrated engagements. I think that is important. And the reason why this is important, because if you look at the vertical fiscal framework, normally from the national budget, from the donor, you will see that from the overall budget, nationally, also only 9% is allocated to municipalities, and hence why Honourable Member Constable's question is valid. And that vertical transfer to municipalities are also declining. And what is more worrying, as we move towards a just energy transition and people use more solar energy and green energy, one of the biggest sources of revenue for municipalities from a trading account perspective, not a rates perspective, a trading account is the selling of electricity. And we see that is declining at a rapid speed. So the question is relevant. How do we bring everybody together to assist municipalities? Because if municipalities fail, South Africa fails. If municipalities succeed, South Africa succeeds. And I therefore support this proposal, but I extend it. Thank you, Chair.
You're on mute, but
if you mute, then I'm making so.
Oh, apologies, HOD. Over to you to complete the questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to ask John and Joshua just to respond to the township questions of Honourable Member, and also touching on the safety issues, because I certainly know the team that John leads has been busy in preparation to respond to the safety issues. And then I'm going to ask Shitofi, DDG, please respond to the consumer protection question. But I just wanted to provide a context, because it flowed through from the first questions a bit into this. Mr. Mayor had said right from the beginning that the G4J is not just our department responsibility. We have a fair chunk of it, nearly 50% actually the deliverables sit within our department, and our budgets are inadequate. But we are looking to be innovative and also though realistic in the way that we pace and we sequence things that we do. We're also quite deliberate that we need to do things at scale and have rich or are systemic in nature, so that it impacts on everybody in the economy. But I think there's a special recognition, in particularly PFA 6 and 7, around the spatial disconnect. There's a very powerful methodology for their strategy that shows where people live relative to where the economic opportunities are. And effectively, this adds to the burden of the cost of wages. Because if you're spending 20 to 30% of your salary on getting to work, and 20% of your salary just to have data in order to have access and communication, then you essentially erode your buying power. So the systemic answer is, one, we not only need to bring people to live closer to where the economic opportunities are, but we need to bring economic opportunities closer to where people live. But we have to do that in a sustainable way that enhances the competitiveness of not only just the growth opportunities, but provides sustainable, ongoing growth opportunities for us. And I think across not just South Africa, but the world, there tends to be a number of white elephants go off and you build things and it doesn't quite work out. And we need to be cautious within our fiscal constraints, make every cent that we spend count, and to make sure that it is sustainable. So That just provides a little bit of a context of the approach, the overall approach that we're taking as a department. But John, if I could hand over to you, please, and then Josh, if you want to add, and then you speak.
Thank you. Let me start with the first one on safety. Chair, I must say this has been something personal for me, because the engagements that we've had with SMMEs, especially your informal organizations that we supported the Booster Fund, this is something which has become almost endemic to the way they do business, closing their businesses, not wanting to grow because they become more prominent. So it's been very important to us. What we've done is I personally sat in on a meeting with police oversight. We're now going to be part of a committee that looks at extortion specifically. So there's going to be a provincial, City of Cape Town and broader committee, which will include SAPS and the other law enforcement agencies, looking specifically at extortion and how we actually deal with it. There's a planned conference or sort of get together that's going to happen, I think, in July or something like that. We will all pull things together. This is all as part of something which affects businesses, especially your informal trade. I just want to add, I mean, the stats, the latest stats SA report that came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before, again emphasizes that for the informal sector is the last resort for people that are unemployed and are excluded from the economy. So obviously we have to look at that as a priority. So just on the safety thing, I think I myself personally driving it from the department, looking at how do we actually address that issue. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to have to overcome that one. That's the first one. The next one is the township strategy. And I think from our side, especially from program 2, we've made extensive inroads in terms of working with PSBD. I think we now counted as one of those departments or one of those units that sit in on the strategic issues. We give input. We actually get lots of input in terms of the indicators, so we've got a lot of confidence there. And I think there lies the advantage in that if you're going to be looking at the township strategy, you're going to need to crowd in your relevant role players. And I think from their side, from DSBD side, with their township revitalization strategy, we're going to have to pull them in. Hence, we need to consolidate our township strategy from our side with an emphasis on enterprise development. I think also with regard to that, we form excellent relationships with our ESOs. ESOs are enterprise support organizations, such as Lurio running with his Silulu, and then our labs. That's how we're going to actually invigorate and sort of pull the township into the mainstream economy. So just on another level, then, just to summarize that issue, is that we're going to have to consolidate what we currently have and merge that with what is happening on a national level, especially in terms of the MTDP document, which clearly set out how we're going to bring in a more inclusive economy. That's one thing. On the other thing is something which I sort of inherited. I was pulled in as a co-lead to the TAP, which is the Township Action Plan, which just came from G4J, which basically is going to be looking at a pilot area, sort of a precinct development. If you look at the City of Cape Town, they do what is called precinct developments and have holistic development in that specific area. It has been decided that Mossel Bay will be that area. We had our first kickoff meeting comprising ourselves, the DEDP, Department of Infrastructure and EDP as the 4 partnerships. We then followed up that meeting with Mossel Bay, who now needs to select which township they're going to be taking on. And this will then mean we're going to have a holistic approach with regard to that, whether it is infrastructure, informal trading, and all those areas. From our side, from the department side, we've got a handsome budget of 447,000 for that initiative. But 2 million rand is lying with DEDP with regard to the start of this project. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Yes, Rashid, just briefly, Rashid.
Briefly. Hi, Rashid Dopi. I'm DDG, but I'm also the acting consumer protector. Honorable Minister Nkondlo, currently there's a very comprehensive task force that's looking after the foodborne illness, to call it what it's broadly being, and it's being managed by Minister of Culture, Minister Hlabisa, and co-chaired by Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. And I attend those meetings on a regular basis. Faye, thank you for it really compiles all the information of what's happening at a municipal level. But just to clarify, the role of the consumer protector is if somebody complains, we will respond to the complaint. And I checked with the team, we haven't had any foodborne illness-related complaints. but the proactive work is actually done at the municipal level by community healthcare workers and very much coordinated at what's called the NAT joints level by right up to like Lieutenant General Moskile at a national level. And they look at everything from it. Remember, this stemmed from the closure of illegal shops, looking for registration, correct permitting. So what we do is we coordinate the responses of all 30 munis. And at the moment, just in the last 6 months, there were 264 training interventions done by various municipalities on awareness on health and safety. How do you register your business to be food safe? And then where necessary, closing down illegal food traders and food handlers. That's really the essence of the issue. So in the Western Cape, I believe it is under control and we haven't had any complaints coming through the Consumer Protection Office. Freya, have I covered that? Would you like to add anything?
I can add two more things. More specifically, in the last 3 months, there have been over 115 training interventions, particularly in food, safe and healthy, business regulation, registration versus permitting in the Western Cape. This has been coordinated with the two national departments, as Rashid has mentioned, but focusing really in on the environmental health practices at municipal level. We now await National COGTA and DSPD, Small Business Development. I'm careful now about my acronyms, Minister. To coordinate the national training program, Western Cape has inquired, I think, several times in terms of how to get on board with the training, and we geared in the Western Cape. We now await National to start their lists. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. That is the final round of questions that we have received from you. Back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable members, I don't think we've got time for another round of questions, but Honourable Ngontlo, I see your hand up. Is there a question that has not been answered?
Chair, it's my understanding that this committee was scheduled for 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock, according to my diary. And therefore, I really plead with you to allow us to ask questions so that when we are having to conclude on the committee, as by the time, the questions that we have are answered by the department. So I still have questions that I would want to pose to the department, and I want to appeal for you to provide me the time to do so.
Okay, you can go ahead, Honourable Ngontlo, if you've got really burning questions. Yeah, proceed, member.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to follow up, I think, on Rashid, about the sentiments he raised about the issue of the township, including, I think, the safety. And I think that focus by SAPS and that is being done is really appreciated, and hopefully we can get reports soon. Although one is not clear about what exactly the department is going to be doing around the township, because this is not a matter that is only coming now, where colleagues are still talking about still to develop something, because I think the issue of interventions by this particular department around the township, rural and informal economy, with all the stats that are confirming the business case for support, is something that has been raised. And here one talks about what exactly, even in an engagement with DSPD, what is the consolidated strategy? What is its pillars? What exactly are you going to be doing as this department to support rural, township and the informal traders? Because indeed, these people on a daily, they're not waiting, as Minister is saying, they're not waiting for government. They go out there, they fend for themselves, they deal with bylaws, that are not responsive to them. I think it's been years, one raised questions even in the previous administration about the red tape reduction and the extent to which you are interacting with the very municipalities around informal trading bylaws and how those could actually be reviewed, and these informal traders with their association, some with part of association, be engaged on actually developing some of regulations that are supportive, to these informal traders and entrepreneurs. So I'm not hearing succinctly and what is the tangible program other than being told about a boutique project being done here, there, and the other. And that continues to be my frustration in terms of the response of the department in this regard. And actually, Chairperson, if we look, the very program that Rashid, I'm sorry, I don't think it's Rashid, I think was responded to here. Program 2, actually its budget has been reduced by 10.18%. And one is worried, on the work that we're talking about, if the budget there is reduced. And one can see that where, especially on sub-program 2.1 of enterprise development, and there's a 30% increase on the regional and local economic development, which is actually interesting because you were there, Chairperson, yesterday in the meeting of the Department of Local Government, where I think the HOD was actually raising the concern and asking that we must be able to talk to the Department of Economic Development to come back on the work that they were doing around municipalities' economic development. And I want, as the department here is saying, they are working with the department, with the municipalities, to please close gaps with the Department of Local Government around harnessing, efforts so that the consolidation we're talking about can be seen. And ask the question, why is the termination of the booster fund? Because we're told in page 654 that the booster fund is being terminated, and that's the reason of the reduction in program 2 due to fiscal constraints and reprioritization. And one asks, where is the provincial reserve fund that has actually been used to support programs that have demonstrated assisting and supporting, the economic growth plans of this government? So I'm not understanding where, especially where one sees, when I look at this vote, pages, Chairperson, I see that there is an above 50% increase of goods and services, right up to program 5, who's actually 125.34% in page 663 on their goods and services. And I'm asking, what are we buying if indeed, these kind of critical, and we're talking about an inclusive economy. We see the great work the department is doing, for more high-end and more stable or high-level corporate structures or businesses of the first world, but I am very much worried, and I would always continue to raise this voice of those that are in the margins of the economy, because the very billions we're talking about of infrastructure, as they were being mentioned here, if they are not helping us to disrupt that historic legacy, but also a potential perpetuation of inequality, if we are not bringing those that are on the margins of the economy, so that we do not have a stark reality of a Khayelitsha and a Nyanga just across the N2 versus what you see when you enter the city of Cape Town. We are demanding, colleagues, when we speak about this, we are demanding equality in your interventions that demonstrate that you are genuine about ensuring that the very efforts that you are putting, to ensure that investors, multinationals who want to come and do business here in this province are getting a priority, even with visas and everything else. We want to see you doing the very same thing for the ordinary people who are citizens and voters of this particular government, in as far as the rural, the informal traders, and the township economy. So I'm asking these particular questions, Chair, and I'm expecting clarity on answers of what exactly, and when you see this budget, that for me does not make sense on a very important program too, that is supposed to contribute to this inclusive economy, but its budget is being reduced, including the booster fund that we have all been boasting about and the assistance that it is giving to SMMEs in this province. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Gondlo. Mine is really a comment, Minister, and just following up on what Honorable Gondlo said. I did, in my opening remark, indicate that my concern is your staffing in terms of this particular department. And I looked at the cost of employees of all the other votes. You are the second lowest in terms of the cost of employees at 156 million rands. And the vote number 2, which is a provincial parliament, is sitting with a cost of employee of about 104 million. And then followed, I'm talking now in terms of the lowest, followed by police and cultural affairs at 179 million. So this for me is an indication that you are lowly staffed, and maybe that's an area that you definitely need to look at in terms of the support to those departments or those areas that are really crucial for economic development. The second comment I want to make, Minister, is around the question that was asked by Honorable Mbombo with regards to which specific industry are we supporting to get specific outcomes. Often when we engage with your department, we often hear tourism sector, agricultural sector, and we talk about township economy. And I think we all know that this is not, the list is not exhausted. Maybe, you know, in the next engagement, we need to get a list of all the economic sector that you are supporting. And I think looking at your cost of employee and looking at, what your budget allocation is, I do not think that you've got enough capacity to reach all the sector. And obviously, harness this relationship. And obviously, our issue, we do have an informal economy that is really providing either food security or just really employment to those that cannot be absorbed in the normal economy. So I do support that we definitely need to put some efforts there in terms of supporting that economy. Thank you, Minister and HOD. We will make some resolutions around this, but thank you, Honorable Ngontlo, for your question. Over to you, HOD and the Minister.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think there are a couple of points I want to make, particularly around the issues that Honourable Member raised around the informal and the township, and particularly with regards to the SME booster fund, and what we're doing going forward. And then also, in the same way, I will talk about the shifts in the budgets. And so, right at the beginning, Minister Mayor had said, and it's clearly in the documents as well, that we've done shifts. We've got the G4J strategy, and there was a transition period towards providing the kind of funding which we needed to prioritize within the G4J strategy. And the G4J strategy is very clear about the interdependencies between the various PFAs. So you cannot do SMEs support without stimulating the market growth. You can't do skills development without supporting business or stimulating investments. So they all intertwined and interconnected. And what had happened within the department over a period of time is there was a shift. There were shifts, and perhaps because of the job recovery plan, quite a bit of resources ended up with specific programs within the department. And essentially what we needed to do was just make a better balance within the department. So that's the first thing. The second thing really was around, and I think actually the standing committee had consistently raised this as the issue around boutique and bespoke projects. And so we had heard, and the strategy is to actually develop a strategy around SMEs and townships so that we are able to provide a comprehensive health framework and provide a comprehensive response within the department, not only just to startup businesses, but also to grow business. Know that businesses, it's an ongoing process, right? So not doing one thing and then expecting the business to be all sorted out. So it's an ongoing process that requires various programs within this department, but also other departments to contribute at various stages as the firms actually expand, develop, and grow. So we're looking at something that provides a holistic understanding of what the requirements of the SMEs are, and they're different in different areas. Different townships have different opportunities, and so we need to make sure that our strategy and our plans are not a one-size-fits-all, really all sorted, but it allows and enables tailored responses to the needs of those SMEs, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first. So we are looking at developing the strategy and then seeing how we can better leverage the resources that sit outside of the department, because we are constrained. So our fiscal envelope, if you look at beyond giving the entities that belong to us, if you take that away and you take away the SOEs, the compensation of employees, the department's fiscal envelope to actually do things is quite limited. And so we need to think of other ways to actually have the same impact, same outcome, but doing things differently. So about how that changes. And we're hoping that the SME strategy that you made and the township strategy is going to help shape that, but also in the process of developing it, the consultation will also start highlighting or raising additional or new types of interventions that can possibly have greater impact. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and part of it could also be the red tape reduction, where you say if, for example, zoning is immediately criminalized, our businesses in the townships, and we unblock that, or we work with the municipalities to unblock that, then we've made significant progress already in the ease of doing business for the township economies. If, for example, in the townships, there's a lack of business infrastructure, which constrains the ability for businesses in the townships to be competitive, then that's an issue we need to address. If, for example, and we know this in Khayelitsha, rent for commercial space is more expensive than the CBD in. And so what do we then do to unblock it, to reduce the uncertainty, to increase the risks, not for external companies to come in and build infrastructure in townships, but to enable essentially the tenants and the businesses that already reside in the townships to provide them with platforms and capability and support they require to build the business infrastructure required in those communities. So that's what we're saying. It's comprehensive, it's varied, and the idea would be that the department had previously done a township strategy. It's a bit of a refresher. This is not necessarily, it's building on what we already know, enhancing, refining within the spheres of the policy and of the G4J strategy, and then we're hoping to then implement it. And then you may well see additional shifts in budgets and going forward. So that's the first thing. The second thing with regards to the COE, the employees department is going through organizational redesign. And there is going to be an expansion, but I think there's particularly going to be an expansion of the lower levels of the employees. So it still has to go through its process through our minister. But the intention of the department is to make sure that we have lower level professionals that allows us the footprint to have real conversations in the townships and in our rural communities. Because at the moment, you have units that have 2, 3, sometimes one person, and you cannot hold a relationship and have meaningful dialogues and then provide the follow-up when you have such constraints. So we can use digital, but it still requires warm bodies to actually hold the relationships. If we want to leverage funding, you need somebody to hold that relationship with the funder, and that's what we're going to be addressing in going forward. And then with regards to which industry we supporting, the G4J is very clear around not identifying particular sectors or industries that we will be focusing on. The philosophy is basically that we would be responsive to any growth opportunity. We have to define what that growth opportunity is. So that's where you come with policy support, and sometimes just having conversations, just convening the ecosystem causes things to actually happen. Because then it addresses what Khan was saying earlier, information asymmetry, where basically there isn't intelligence isn't shared, and so people can't make informed decisions around how to invest, how to expand, how to perhaps export. And so we aren't industry specific, but there will be elements we will be looking at. Is this a growth opportunity? And sometimes even mature industries like the clothing and textiles, new green shoots may pop up, which is labor intensive and allows us to say if we do one or two things, we'll be able to unlock a new potential and new growth within that particular industry. And so it's just about how are we being responsive to those opportunities, and that's a conversation that we will gain forward. With the investment, with the investment summit that we are having, we are starting to unpack also what these growth opportunities could be, looking at what our competitive advantages are, and where possibly a company can expand or locate, where is the locational advantage for that particular industry. And so particularly around skills development, we know, for example, that in Kailicha, which explained, there is enormous opportunity around BPO, business process outsourcing and call centers. The call centers accommodating for AI, and it's evolving, and so it's being mindful of international trends and where industry is going, and then saying how we can take advantage. And so it's always constantly looking at how do we extract a spatial footprint, what are the opportunities and what we need to do, and who do we have to work for. But we need, as we correctly said, Chair, people to be able to help us drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ngondo, is it a legacy hand?
Yes, Chairperson, it is a legacy hand. Thank you.
Are you covered, honorable members? Are we all covered with the answers from the minister and the HOD and the department? Going once, going twice. So honorable members are satisfied. Minister, thank you very much. And the department, really thank you very much for your presentation today and your answering of the questions. My last point here on the matters that were shared with us by the HOD is that money follows strategy. So we learned yesterday that the mobility has had increase in terms of their budgets, because they have got the strategy that really the provincial treasury responded to by increasing their budget. So maybe, you need to really be smart around, how you present your strategy to the provincial treasury. They might increase your budget. But really, thank you very much, Minister. Closing remarks before we excuse you and the HOD. Over to you.
Firstly, thank you to the chair and the members of the committee, but also to my senior managers here, as well as those on the entities that are on board. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We're looking forward to the actual debate taking place on Friday this week. Thank you very much. There are two things that you mentioned, and that's also the role of you as a legislature. You said we are understaffed. Take it that during the debate, you will fight for more money, for more staff, number one. Number two, you say that we need more money for the informal economy and the township economy. As a legislature, I hope that you will fight in the debate for more money from Treasury. I thank you.
And more money for rural economy as well. Minister will fight, yeah. Honorable members, really thank you. The department can be excused so that we carry on with our next part of the deliberation, which is the vote for the budget.
Get the staff to stay behind here. Yes, it will.
Thank you. Honorable members, I am going to allow us to take a 2-minute break, body break, and then 80 minutes pass. We will start with the the finalization of this particular vote. Honorable members, now we go to and adopt the draft committee report 12. The questions put to you, honorable members, is that are there any support for the vote? If you do support, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you, honorable members. My hand is also up. For support, in terms of rule, if there are members of this committee that do not support the vote, indicate by show of hands. Can I ask the honorable members that raise their hand in support to lower them down? Myself, I did. Okay, Honorable Gondlo. Honorable Mbombo, what's your hand for?
Sorry, I was just saying that my appeal.
You're welcome to express yourself in terms of this particular vote.
No, I was saying that I was trying to raise my hand. In the
Honorable
first
Mbombo,
one.
I saw your hand going up.
Can you hear me?
Apologies.
Sorry, Chair, I think, I don't know what, there's a big noise in the background. I think that might be the.
It's doing its thing. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
there we go. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, much better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Honorable Mbombo.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'll write on there. I don't know what is happening.
Yeah,
Member, I can hear you clearly.
We can hear you.
No, I was
she maybe
saying that.
can't hear us.
Sorry, I was saying that the computer is heating up. It does that thing again where I can't hear anything. I raised my hand initially, but it couldn't work it out. So I was trying to write on it. So I supported the vote. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. There is obviously a no support vote by Honorable Ngontlo. Shireen, over to you.
Chair, I just want to double check Member Nkondlo. Does she want her minority view expressed in the committee report?
Yes, Chairperson. As per Rule 90, I wish that the view of the ANC not to support the vote be registered in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngontlo. Noted.
Here we go, Chairperson.
Okay, honorable members, report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Economic Development and Tourism on vote 12, Economic Development and Tourism in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2 2025 dated 1 April 2025 reads as follows. The Standing Committee on Agriculture, Economic Development and Tourism, having considered the subject of vote 12, in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2 2025, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view to not support the vote. Thank you. Honorable members, this part of the deliberation is completed. Now we get into the resolution. I did note Honorable Ngontlo's resolution. I think regarding the regulations or bylaws, DTAT has worked on with the municipalities to help enable township economy or informal traders. Then, yeah, I think, am I correct? Did I capture it correctly, Honorable Ngontlo, or do you want to rephrase it?
Okay, Chair, I think maybe it can tell us in the reduction, you know, in the various municipalities, as the HOD was making reference, was saying if. So I didn't get whether they have worked on this or they are just making an example. So if they can tell us in these municipalities, are there specific legislations, you know, that they have been able to engage the municipality, you know, to enable informal traders, township entrepreneurs, rural economy. You know, if they can give us a very specific answer on that too. This strategy they're talking about of township, rural, and informal, when is the strategy going to be developed? When should we anticipate its completion? Because G4J is already in earnest, being in the implementation phase now. So if you're talking about the township and all of this, it means they're not going to be benefiting on all the work and the efforts that are being done. So I'm interested, when is that and what budget and institutional mechanisms of how that strategy that they're talking about is going to be delivered from. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngontlo. I see Honorable Constable's hand is up.
Chair, thank you very much. The MEC spoke about the economic conference later this year. Can we ask the department to come and do a presentation with regards to the proposal that the department compiled? Thank you.
Shireen, I think this resolution, I will also just put it to you because the conference is going to happen pretty soon. So we might not have space to allocate for the department to present to us before the conference. Shireen, do you want to respond maybe?
Chair, let me just have a look at the parliamentary program, then I'll be able to respond.
Yeah, I think.
And also just to get the exact date then from the department.
And I think maybe we might have to reword it differently once we got the department's response. Maybe after instead of before, because I do think that we might not have space to accommodate them. Honorable Mbombo, I want to make a resolution on your question because you had two very important questions that I really liked, that really talks to industry specific and also talking to tourism, you know, in terms of tourism, who do you want to impact, the extent of the impact of the tourism? I don't think that we got the answers, but I just want to get what you really wanted to get out of it, maybe before I suggest a resolution in this regard. Honorable Ngontlo, can you hear me?
Mbombo.
Sorry, Honorable Mbombo, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, can I go, sir? Okay.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clear.
Okay. The issue is about, as we say, that a part of the positives that are coming from the Western Cape, as the province of the economy, which is mostly driven by the tourism and the economic sector, which is mostly agriculture. Agriculture is clear. We could be able to know where they are, exactly where there are sources in terms of the revenue, or also in terms of the players. In tourism, for example, in 2024, they were bragging about the overnight arrivals in Cape Town. They grew more than 8.9% compared to the 2019 figures. And mostly 57% of those come from the US, and then about 16% from the UK, and Germany, and so forth. Now, For any other at an input level, you could be able to map it across. As I'm making an example, if they're saying we are going to invest, let's say, 3 billion in the infrastructure, they can be able to pinpoint that it will be in A, B, C, D, and which are those infrastructures. Similar, if they say that we want to invest to improve the basic education or the matric pass rate, they will be able to granulate in terms of where the schools, in which districts and so forth. Is similar with health, where they'll say want to improve, let's say, maternal health outcomes. Yes, it's generic, but they could be able to say, starting at Central Karoo, for example, where the maternal mortality rate is low, or in Paarl, where we have got a high teenage pregnancy rate. I'm just making an example. However, with tourism, they just drop the numbers that we have got so many of that have arrived. But it's easier for them to say we have assisted in terms of the tourist, of the tours and so forth, but they don't specify in terms of spreading where these are. The reason I'm interested is because where there's a high level of economy, where there's a high level of employment, where there's a high level of the support of the business, whatever, you find that the socio-economic factors get improved. So my point is about part of the societal issues that Western Cape is grappling with is a drug-related crime, and also made about specifically crime-related crime. My point is about, and also in some of the other districts where you find that there are still people who are living the poverty line. Like personally, I don't understand that in places where there's a high level of harvest, of the high level of export of foods, you'll also get people who still live in the below poverty line, but that's not the case. But the point is about where can we see the figures? Because the minister says that if you open on the matter, on the payroll, it is there. No, those people come in via international flights and they go where? So that we could be able to follow the impact of the input in regard to that space. During the COVID, I was able to follow them that when there's a tourist in a certain place, you'll find there will be community transmission of the COVID. But in the case of the economy, I don't know why we only get the numbers and then we get excited, yet we don't see exactly in terms of the impact. How will the tourism or the people who are getting off the plane in Cape Town will be able to make an impact in Maritzburg, for example, or in Nelsport, for example? I'll want to know. If there is no impact, that's fine. But we want to see so that we can follow the impact of tourism, specifically on the improvement of the socio-economical conditions. Plus, also for us to be able to, when we want to make a follow-up in regard to the oversight, we can be able to see, oh yeah, I see so many people in Riebeek Castle. We see so many people in Esterfontein, and mostly are tourists. Paternos, you can see them. For example, most of the tourists that are there, they love that space, but I don't know how is the impact in terms of the people that are staying there. So that's what I was trying to highlight. I don't know how you phrase the question, but it's one of those things that I'm grappling with.
I have just jotted it down that maybe what we should request is sector-specific support and areas and the impact it had with the impact it had in terms of the support, with the exclusion of agriculture, because we do have reports on agriculture. I don't know if it makes sense, Sharon, how you find in the way I worded it? Because then it will include, your tourism, and it would include other sectors that might have township and so forth and so forth.
Yes, Chairperson, that's absolutely fine the way that you worded it, but I will also work with it and structure a sentence and draft it, and then send it to members in the draft minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Honorable Ngontlo, I see your hand is up. Is it a legacy or is it on this point?
Chair, there are just two last questions I would like, if allowed, to just get through as information from the department. One, I think, is the issue of in the job targets that the department, because each department, I would assume, has got a role to enable, the private sector jobs to come to the province. So I'm interested in the work of this department, of whether there is any specific target, in that number that the province has set for itself in terms of the PSP. If there is a specific target, in the work of this department and its entities, if they could be able to provide as such. But also there's something that actually I would also like maybe the department to help me understand, especially on the infrastructure-led growth, is that one troubling aspect for me that I always sit with is the huge number in terms of rent value investment, on these projects versus the number of jobs. Maybe the department, with their economists and expertise can actually explain this, because if you check in page 624, just as an example, they talk about, West gross investment related activities. There they speak about 9 investment projects to the value of 8.7 billion rands, which is set to create about 10,846 new jobs over the next 5 years. But then in the same vein, they say Westco trade team signed a total of 147 trade declarations to date, with an estimated trade value of 2.64 billion, creating a total of 1,071 jobs. And you'll find this across, I think, even in other departments. So for me, I'm always interested, what exactly is the mathematical matrix that could explain, the rent value ratio, to the job numbers? Because, you sometimes find that there's huge investment in infrastructure project is very huge in terms of the amount of rents that must be put. But there's always a very little in terms of a scope of weight of the number of jobs. Maybe there's an economic explanation, and I would always be interested to understand what that is, especially in the kind of eagerness and monies that are being put. As Minister was talking, I think now we are at almost 32, if not 36 billion cumulatively over time of investment we are putting on infrastructure. But I think the numbers of what we are getting in terms of jobs in the market, I don't think we're able to match, that extent. So I'm just needing some kind of an explanation, which I'm sure the department could be able to provide us. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Apologies for the bell ringing. There's people, they just come to your gate and ring the bell. Yeah, I think I'm covered in terms of that question. I have got obviously a question that I will phrase afterwards, is really regarding the point I made that money follows strategy, because I think we probably, maybe the question, not the question, but the request will be that the department provide us with a strategy that they have formulated, once they have done in terms of their reviewing their head count as such. So Sherin, I think if you can capture that in terms of really that they must provide us with the strategy formulation once they've completed, that talks to the head count that they have indicated that they are busy reviewing it. I hope I'm clear on that one.
I will structure and draft it, Chair, and submit it to the committee for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, thank you very much. I see Joanne is still here with us. Maybe she wants to give the answers as quickly as possible. But really, thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is thus adjourned if there is no any other hand for resolution. No other hand.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you, colleagues.
Well done.
Cheers, bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Shireen.